Though I would also want to emphasize that healing is not a one-day process. I had gotten into a friendship with a fellow Zimbabwean lady, and not knowing that she was deeply into occultism. Yes, so we were working at the same place, and me, I took her at face value. I didn't know the deeper spiritual things that she is into. And then later, after she had tried so many ways, I found out that she was trying to initiate me into that occultism. God started speaking to me in that depression that now you had to go through the experience. I had broken bones, broken teeth from that marriage, screwdrivers, tabs.
Hello, Wisdom and Purpose family. Thank you so much for wisdoming and purposing with us. ImeTheFinest here. This is Wisdom and Purpose with Ime, where we help you and more wisdom become happier, healthier, and more wiser. So sometimes more healed, because we bring in the most inspiring stories that you need to hear. So joining me on this episode is Nyasha Munetsi, a nurse, domestic violence survivor, and founder of Speak Out Voice It organization. Nyasha, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Ishe, for having me.
I was stammering on your organization's names. I was like, what? Because is it Soviet? What is it?
No, the full name of the organization is Speak Out Voice It.
Speak Out Voice It.
Voice
Okay.
It. And then the abbreviation becomes SOVI.
Whoa.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, continue.
Many people get confused at the double phrasing upon the first time that they are hearing the name of our organization. Because when we say Speak Out, Voice It, it seems like we are talking about the same thing. But for us, it's a way of communicating the two different stages that we take our beneficiaries through, the victims of gender-based violence. First, we are saying speak out. This is the stage when they are screaming out for help, when they are breaking the silence, when they are coming out to report that this is what I've gone through. And then we receive them and we listen to their story, and we hold their hand and walk with them through the healing and justice-seeking process. And then voice it comes when now at the stage that we are empowering them. Now we are trying to support them in making sense of the experience that they went through, and healing from it completely. And we empower them to find a voice to now tell their stories, because we just don't end at receiving victims and seeking justice for them and it ends there. No, every victim that comes through our hands as Speak Out Voice It organization, we make sure that they are discharged from our system as leaders themselves, as people who now go back to their communities as advocates, as activists themselves, who are now using their story and their experience to help others.
Many people think this is a sponsored interview, but I want to tell you that this is not sponsored interview, because we jumped straight into the organization. Or let's talk about you grew up witnessing a lot of GBV in your parents' marriage, and you experienced it later. So what is your earliest childhood memory that you think has shaped the person you are today, the activist in you and the nurse in you?
Maybe let me talk about the activist in me first. I would say the childhood memory that influenced the most who I am today would be one of the rare and but yet powerful father-daughter talks that I used to have with my dad. My dad was a very strict person, a stern person. He used to be known in our neighborhood, Takakurira Kuchitungwiza. And when I got to high school stages, teenagehood, many people would know within our neighborhood kuti kumba kwana Nyasha akusvikiki, baba vake havadi. My father would not let us like go out and roam the streets like other
other kids,
teenagers in our neighborhood. So vanga vari munhu ari very strict, like I have said, but in his strictness he used to have rare talks with me. And in those talks, my father used to say, my daughter, I'm not like many African fathers who glorify marriage. He would tell me that my biggest prayer upon your life is that you grow up, you graduate from high school, and you get into a college or university to get a skill, a training for yourself, and you attain for yourself a degree, a certificate that will get you, back in the days they used to say employment, and get yourself employment, because you know how it is with other African fathers. They would, envision their daughters getting married to a stable man who is going to be able to take care of the daughter. So my father used to tell me that, no, inina anti. I want you to be independent. I would rather have you single and independent, empowered, than married and incapacitated. That's what my father used to do. So tell me, so that really at that time, it didn't make much sense to me. But as I grew and, I went through what I went through, I started realizing that, my father's words make sense. A woman's independence and empowerment is much more valuable than a marriage. It changed the common narrative around success in women, Kwandiri, because now many girls would say marriage is the ultimate success, but for me, independence, especially financial independence, becomes your success as a woman.
At what point did you accept? And I'm sure it was not the first time that you accepted when your father said, my daughter, I want you to do this. Yeah. I'm sure you was like, this is crazy, man. At what was the turning point when you realized that, no, I think this man is right?
This man is right. Okay, it was way before my marriage. It was way before my marriage. I can say just after high school, I started working before I got to nursing school. But upon enrolling to nursing school, that's when I started witnessing a lot of violence cases. They would come at the outpatient department as emergencies, women bleeding. And then when you are doing the history taking, during the consultation of that patient, you find out that the woman was attacked because maybe she had asked the husband for money for a household need, and then the husband would just beat her. Most of the violence was around lack of resources within the homes. So I started now processing all these things and started realizing, no, if a woman is empowered, they wouldn't have to go through all these things, because there is things, yes, we need to be supporting each other as husband and wife within the home, but sometimes when a husband is away, and a woman notices maybe, she doesn't have to call the husband. No, she can, if she's empowered, and a lot of things can be avoided from them.
Growing up in a violent household might be traumatic sometimes. What does that experience do to you?
As a child? Having to witness violence as a child is something that I can never wish upon any child. And the sad thing is that the parents, the mother and father who are, performing this violence, most of the time they really don't have an idea of what they are putting their children through, because a child has no language for violence. The only thing that they can do is observe and absorb. And as they are absorbing the situation that is before them and that is happening on a day-to-day basis, they start shaping narratives, within themselves. They start forming opinions and views about life. They are forming opinions about men. They are forming opinions about marriage. They are forming opinions even about mothers. Because I can say for myself, I used to witness this violence between my parents. And then I would watch how my mother would suffer in silence. She never reported. She never used to even, I don't remember any situations where she would even talk to other people about the violence that she went through. It's something that she would just keep within herself and keep quiet about it. So for me, as a girl child who was watching within this household, I became to internalize that, okay, this is a normal situation and it can happen within a marriage setup. And when it happens, as a wife, you enjoy, there's now this matokes at as African people, anoti rudo kuchengera. Antichi? Kuchengera rudo, right? And then mukadzi anoshingirira varume ndizvo zvavari. Those are now things that begin to shape my narratives, my opinions, my views, and those are such damaged, damaged negative influences, and it is so munhu anotozokura are damaged. And if I can say, if the grace of God doesn't intervene for that person, we will have a very, very damaged adult.
Did you heal from those experiences?
As I'm here, being founder of an organization now that is helping women to speak out against violence and also heal from traumatic experiences, I would say yes, I have healed. Though I would also want to emphasize that healing is not a one-day process. It can be a lifelong
take us
journey.
through your healing process. What was it like?
I only started healing after my marriage. My experience, how do I explain this? It's such a complex situation sometimes that if I try to explain it to other people, it doesn't really make sense. But I can also say for me, it took a lot of intervention from God.
Let's talk about God. What's your relationship like with God?
With God, God is my creator. He created me in his image. And I believe that as I'm here on earth, I'm here to represent his image. And I believe that I'm created for a purpose. That is what I wanted to explain when I was saying it took a lot of grace from him, his intervention, because it's something I'm not so sure how spiritual you are, but we all at some point do understand that life is very spiritual. So for me, being in this field that I am in now, it's, to some people it might seem like I reached this point through maybe the experience that I went through. But as somebody who believes that life is spiritual, you will understand that the days of our lives are already known. Nothing takes God by surprise. Even the abuse that I went through, it didn't take God by surprise. I can remember in 2014, just after leaving South Africa, coming back home, I was part of a prophetic church. We had, for me to leave South Africa, something spiritual had happened that I really had to seek spiritual help, but not.
Do you mind sharing?
It's something that maybe would need another day on its own, because
Okay.
it's such a long story. But it was deeply spiritual. It was a very strong spiritual attack, and I believe in those days that the devil really wanted me dead. He really wanted me dead. So it took
So
the
let me catch you there. In a nutshell, just summarize it. Just make it short so that our viewers will catch up on that one.
I don't. Okay, if they can follow through, it was a bad experience that I had at the place where I was working at that time. I had gotten into a friendship with a fellow Zimbabwean lady, and not knowing that she was deeply into occultism. Yes, so we were working at the same place, and me, I took her at face value. I didn't know the deeper spiritual things that she is into, and then later, after she had tried so many ways, I found out that she was trying to initiate me into that occultism. You see, and she had used a lot of soul ties through gifts, presents that she would give me. But it took, I can say also the grace of God, because nobody prayed for me. God just started coming through for me through dreams, communicating certain things, and I started seeing the different things that she was doing, trying to get me into occultism. So I had to run to a church, a word-based church. And when I got to that church, the pastor of that church prayed for me, and then that's when he said, the purpose of God upon your life is so great that the enemy wants it for his own kingdom. So he just told me the enemy can never be after somebody who God doesn't intend to use. So as you have seen that they were trying to get you into occultism, just know that God has a purpose for your life as well. So from that moment is when I started, getting myself involved in church things. We would go to boot camps to Zambia. We would travel all around Africa doing Christian boot camps.
All right, maybe you can educate us. How do soul ties work? Oh,
I'm not a pastor.
because we think, or now my perspective on that changes, because we used to think that soul ties are born out of sexual activities only.
No.
So now I'm hearing that through gifts you can just.
That's what I used to think as well. But from my experience and from the explanation that that pastor gave me, and also what I've been noticing around, I started believing that soul ties are not just sexual. They can be through exchange of gifts. Somebody can just come and, when they have evil intentions, and when they are trying to gain access into your life, into your spirit, they bring you a present. And once you accept that present, you have opened a door for them to enter into your life. That's what was happening with that friend of mine. She was trying so many. Sometimes I would even question her. It's not even my birthday. It's not even any special occasion. Why this present? And she would just say, I really value our friendship, and I just feel like giving you this gift. Accept it. Yeah. So that's what used to happen. So upon trying to now get deliverance from that experience is when I was attending these boot camps that I just mentioned. And in one of those boot camps, I remember we had just completed the boot camp in Zambia. That was in 2014. That will be in 2014. And I had just came back to Zimbabwe, but then the leaders of the boot camps contacted me to say, no, there's going to be another boot camp in Bulawayo. Can you also attend that one? So I went to attend a boot camp in Bulawayo 2014 in June. And in that, during that boot camp, it would be 7 days prayer and fasting only. That's when I had a strange occurrence as well, where I sort of like manifested. Even the ushers in the church came with their clothes thinking that I'm manifesting a demon. But then the pastor, the leader of that church, said, no, she's not manifesting a demon. Leave here. She's actually birthing something in the spirit. And I was roaring like a lion. So that's why the ushers had thought, no, this thing that is coming with so much roaring is a demon. But then the pastor said, no, leave here. She's birthing something spiritually. And she has to roar, because what she is birthing is something that I'm seeing women and girls behind her. She has to roar in their defense.
I think we will need another episode talking about this thing, because I've noticed that we can talk over and over again. Yeah, sure. Yes. So let's talk about you survived gender-based violence in your marriage. So at what point, take us through the war experience, and at what point did you realize that, no, let me take my personal pain in a profession to be a professional, I mean.
All right. Yes, I went through violence in my marriage. It had started a long time before we actually got to the divorce. And in the earlier times, like I remember the first time that I reported my husband after a very severe attack from him. I actually took my case to the police, and it was reported, and then we actually went through the court. And then how it is with families. They have taken it upon themselves to say gender-based violence is a family issue. So from the influence of the family, they talked me into withdrawing my case, but I was severely damaged. Even as I was saying in court that day to the magistrate that I want to withdraw my case, the magistrate said, no, as damaged as you are we are not going to withdraw this case. This man has to be behind bars for the damage that he has caused you. And then I had to lie. To save him. I said, no, it's not him that attacked me. Of course, we had a little help from, I don't know if it is safe to mention here, that from the prosecutors, because my husband had talked to one of the prosecutors to say, my wife wants to withdraw the case. And even the prosecutor at that time told us that, no, once a case is now in court, it cannot be withdrawn. But then after, a little something, he ended up telling me what I should say in court for the magistrate to be convinced that now we can withdraw. So I had to lie in the court to say, he's not the one who attacked me, it is the girlfriend, because I had caught him red-handed with a woman at our house. And then the magistrate even said, no, the way you are damaged, that's not from a woman, it's from a man. But anyway, to cut a long story short, the matter was withdrawn from the courts. And then we went back into our marriage after counseling from relatives. But then it never stopped. And the last time that I really now reported, again, I never got my justice. That's the sad part of my story, because of a lot of corruption, said to say, that is going on within the justice systems. And so after the divorce, after the last court case that I never got justice, I sort of like fell into a depression. I fell into a depression for 8 months. I was in a depression. And it was during that depression that you would ask yourself a lot of questions. You're asking yourself a lot of whys. Why did I go through this? Why is it me? And at that point is when the prophecy that I just told you about came into my mind. That, remember, it was once said so many years ago about you that you shall start an organization. You are like a roaring lion that is roaring in the defense of many women and girls. So that's when, God started speaking to me in that depression, that now you had to go through the experience. I had broken bones, broken teeth from that marriage, screwdrivers, tabs, so God was like, now if somebody comes to you now, a woman, and says, my husband is cheating on me, he has a girlfriend, you will tell her, okay, I know how it feels because I caught 10 girlfriends.
All right, let me cut you there. What was the turning point when you decided that, no, I want to turn my pain into a purpose?
Yes, it was the realization that now if I stay quiet, I would be like my mother, and I would be like all the other women that I was seeing when I was growing up. It will just end as a statistic. But if I rise up and do something about it, I become part of the solution. So to come out of the depression that I was in, I didn't really go to any hospital or any therapy sessions. It was just that realization in my room at that time to say, no, I don't want to be a statistic. I want to be part of the solution. And I started finding out how I can be part of the solution. And that is when the idea of starting my own organization was dropped in my spirit.
Do you have moments where those experiences, if it's knock at your doorstep, and how do you react?
The experiences of violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Triggers. I would call them triggers.
Yeah, exactly.
Triggers are all around us.
Because sometimes you would think, no, I'm healed now. And
yes.
All of a sudden you are like, you are deeply thinking about those things. So how do you react?
Yes. It takes a lot of training, knowledge through education, and networking with people. That's why we say support groups are so important. If a person has gone through gender-based violence, we need to get that person connected to a support groups, because now as triggers happen, a trigger can even happen and you hear a man saying an insulting thing against a woman, you are already triggered, right? So it's for me, how I cope with triggers is I have had the training, I now have the skills and the tools. One of the first things that I do is to tell myself to remain calm. Emotional intelligence is something that we also train out the victims that we receive on. We train them emotional intelligence. So it takes a lot of emotional intelligence for one to say, okay, I'm not going to react or be impulsive in this situation. I'm going to breathe and really, make an assessment of the situation. Is there any real threat of danger? Is the person meaning it the way I have perceived it? Or maybe the person, because of the experience that you have gone through, you might think somebody, or you might perceive somebody means harm on you, or is means to be insulting on you. But in all honesty, the person doesn't even mean that. So you have to assess yourself. First, you ground yourself. Just ground yourself and just take deep breath in, and then ask yourself, is there any threat of danger? And then you also take that time to look at that person to really assess how did they mean whatever they said that triggered you?
Right, you went to South Africa. So many people that I interact with who went to South Africa back then looking for greener pastures, they always have some terrible stories to tell. Do you have any similar experience? And did you find the greener pastures there?
There's a saying in the Bible that there's a person who once said when they heard a savior has been born in Nazareth, they said, "Is there anything good that can come out of Nazareth?" You know, uh, there is nothing good that can come out of South Africa. I don't know for the majority. I don't want to say all cases, but I would say for the majority, including my case. When I went to South Africa, it was during the big recession in our country. Back then in 2000 and it started, no, it started earlier. It started around 2004 when things started getting bad and we could not even find a packet of salt in the supermarkets. So when I graduated from nursing school 2005, what was happening was our salary, you would take it from the bank. It will be enough for maybe a packet of sugar, a packet of rice, flour, and salt. But by the time you walk from the bank to the supermarket, the salary is now maybe worth just a packet of sugar. So it didn't make sense for us to work here in Zimbabwe. So when we went to South Africa, we went with the mindset that there is greener pastures there. But after my experience and after seeing the experiences of many people that go there, I have come to the conclusion that greener pastures are not found. They are cultivated. And it's something that I really want to, it's a mindset that I want to change, to shift in the minds of the youth today, because they still have that mindset that in South Africa there's greener pastures. We really have to, as organizations, step in and educate the youth that no, greener pastures are cultivated. The green is never, the grass is never greener on the other side. The grass is always green where it is watered. So the water is your vision upon your own life. What do you picture yourself as? And when you have that vision, it's now going to guide you as to the efforts that you have to put in, the discipline that you have to put in, the studying that you have to put in. That's now the cultivating and the watering of your own greener pastures. But my experience in South Africa was so bad. Like now, it is where I even worked and met the girl who I was just talking about earlier.
Talk to us about your nursing experience. After graduating, you are working. Do you have a moment where you attended a patient where you was like, God, please do something to this person? What are the best moments in your nursing career and the worst moments? Just share one. The one best moment and the worst moment.
The worst moment obviously would be when a patient dies. And as a nurse, you are the one who has to break the news to the relatives. So it's something that is spiritually burdening upon each and every nurse, that breaking the news of the demise of a relative. It's something that's not good. And the best moments, obviously, in nursing would be when somebody really recovers. In the hospital, sometimes we receive patients who if we are to say, Isusu Sevan would say, but then we see the hand of God at work on that person's life, and we see a miraculous recovery of that patient. It's one of the joyous moments for us.
I'm sure when you are starting something, for example, you are starting an organization, you are starting a business, you are starting anything, some people will say, no, it won't go far, anything. They will say a lot of stuff. So how did you protect your unrealistic vision, if I must put it in that way?
For SOVI. Like I said, when the idea was dropped in my spirit, when I was still in a depression, yes, I doubted at first. I was the very first doubters of my own vision at first. But then, as you contemplate over it and you rethink it sometimes, and what guided me into pursuing my vision was my own experience, because as I was going through my own experience, I was discovering some loopholes within the systems, even in other organizations. Not to say that we exist to compete with other organizations that have already been in existence, but no, I found out that there is an opportunity for me to start this organization to address those blind spots that I was noticing in within the other organizations in the legal system. So what really fuels me to go on and on is the issue of those blind spots, that they are still there and they still need to be covered by someone one way or the other, for us to really eradicate gender-based violence as we wish.
But before the Seti was talking about gender-based violence, and I'm sure that discussion will help other people. They will just think gender-based violence is for women only. So why is it many people they portray, especially those activists? I know sometimes some of the reasons might be financial, because they want to get sponsorships and other things and funding. So, but why do you think people they portray women as the only victims and men as the perpetrator?
I think it comes from a point of who is reporting and who is doing the advocacy, right? And it also has something to do with the current statistics that are there on the ground. I think I mentioned that preset, that these statistics that are there are saying most of the victims of gender-based violence are women and girls. So that's what any organization will start dealing with once they form an organization that is fighting gender-based violence. And also the issue that men are not coming out to speak about their experiences of gender-based violence. So at the end of the day, no one will get to know about most of the things that men are going through, you see. So it's, I would say it might seem as if people are portraying men as perpetrators and women and girls as victims, but it's not really the case, because when we are talking about gender-based violence, we are not calling it women-based violence. We are calling it gender-based violence, meaning that it can happen to a man or to a woman, to a boy or to a girl. It's just about the gender. Yes.
Are you a feminist? Yes, they say.
Yes, I would say I'm an ecofeminist, not just a feminist. An ecofeminist.
What does that mean? What is it?
An ecofeminist is somebody who is seeing the intersection of social justice and environmental justice. For us, we are saying we cannot address gender-based violence whilst ignoring environmental harm. Those things too are so interconnected, because as we are looking at all the effects of environmental abuse that we are facing today, we are facing climate change, we are facing land water pollutions, where the rivers are drying up, and when we have a reduction of water sources, water bodies, who is at most risk? It's women, because they are the ones that now have to walk further distances to get water for the families.
All right, let me cut you. I think we will need another episode talking about this gender things, because I have a lot of issues surrounding those things, because
Yes.
as men, we are the most disposable gender. And most of people, especially those feminists, you overlook these things. So now that leads me to my last and final question before we close.
All right.
I want you to read a letter you would write to any 18-year-old Nyasha?
So here's a letter to 18-year-old Nyasha. Dear Nyasha, you have turned 18. And for most, you are now transitioning from childhood to womanhood. That is a very critical stage of your life. I want you to know that life is spiritual. And whatever you do, I would encourage you to seek God first. For when you seek God, you are guided by the Spirit, and you do not fall into the pressures of this world. That is something that you must never, ever, ever do, falling into the pressures of this world. Because you are a different individual, a unique individual with your own purpose and plan for your life, and your own unique destiny, and you have your own path to follow in life. So you must never fall to the pressures of this world or fall into any comparison, comparing your path with other people's paths. Yes.
Wow, such a powerful letter. Thank you so much for doing it.
What?
So, as a tradition, before we let you go, we have what you call the final five. I'm going to ask you 5 random questions, then you answer them one sentence or one word or
All
less,
right.
right? So, what is the biggest lie you believed to for a longest time?
The biggest lie I believed for the longest time. Wow. Wow. That you need money to start something important, something impactful.
If you had to make one universal law, which one would it be?
One universal law. Well, that's a hard one. My one universal law would be a borderless world.
World.
Yes, a borderless world where we have no borders, like a world without borders, where we'll be one people, one nation. Yes, because I believe these systems of borders are also a source of conflict. We look at the conflicts that are happening around the world. There are issues of people are fighting that this land is ours, this portion of the nation is ours. It's leading to a lot of conflict. So if we have a borderless
All right,
world,
I'm not going to comment on that one because I have a lot to say about that.
All
So,
right.
what is the best and the worst advice you ever received? Let's start with the best.
the best was get up and follow your dreams.
What was the worst advice?
The worst advice was there is nothing that you can do about it.
My last question is: if you had to rewrite your life story, which part would you rewrite?
I think I would rewrite no, I would not rewrite the marriage because now it has led me to where I am today. I would erase a bit of my childhood, but because I feel that's when most of my dreams were attacked. Not really in my marriage, but in my childhood.
Will you be specific? Which part?
You know, when you are very, very young, you are a daring dreamer. I remember the little girl that I once was. She was a daring dreamer. You know, I would set my room with my dolls, and then I would take combs, toothbrushes to be my mic, and I would be imagining myself on a world stage speaking to a very great audience,
And here you
and
are.
receiving standing ovations after my speeches. So I used to have those dreams when I was young. But then at that time, I didn't have an understanding of these things that were happening around the home. I was still very young. But then later, when I got to understand gender-based violence and all the things that were happening around my home, between my parents, those episodes started depleting until they were normal.
All right, thank you so much for coming. Any parting shots?
No.
All right, thank you so much for coming.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching this far. This is Wisdom and Purpose with Amy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your comments, your likes. I'm seeing them. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me and the team. And a big shout out to Ruimbo behind the camera. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for doing what you are doing. You are doing amazing work. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Your support means a lot, and your subscriptions and sharing our content will help us reach more people and more audience.